Good morning, everyone. We are going to start pediatrics. Our first topic will be growth and development. So, first of all, we will start with the normal growth and normal development, and then we will see the abnormalities. Okay, so let's get started. The first topic is a growth and development. So, what is growth? Growth refers to increase in the size, it is increase in the size of an organ and overall body. This is known as a growth. It can be either by increase in the number of cell and size of the cell. So this is termed as a growth. Now what is development? Development is a maturation of bodily functions. Development is a maturation of bodily functions. Development has a mainly 4 different domains. So we will discuss these 4 different domains of the development. What are these domains? These domains are a gross motor. This can be gross motor development. Motor development or a fine motor development. So gross motor and fine motor development. Language development and then social development. So development has a mainly 4 different domains. The first is a gross motor, fine motor, language and social development. So first of all we will start with the growth. What is the normal growth of a child and what is the abnormal growth of a child? So write down normal and abnormal growth. See this first MCQ previously asked, embryonic period is up to how many weeks? Embryonic period is up to 8 weeks. See this another MCQ. Adolescent age starts at the age of. Adolescent age starts around 10 years of age. Around 10 years of age. So we will see these different terms. So you can have an idea of this. So what is embryo? Embryo is termed as, it is a product of conception it is the product of conception to 8 weeks is termed as an embryo. Fetus after the 8 weeks, it is termed as a fetus. Neonate, it is the first 4 weeks of the life. First 4 weeks of life is termed as a neonate. Perinatal period 22 weeks of gestation. 22 weeks of gestation to 7 days, it is termed as a perinatal period. 37 to 42 week, it is termed child. If child is born before 37 week, it is a preterm child. If child is born after 42 week, it is a post-term child. Now, what is infancy? First year after the birth, it is termed as a infancy. Infancy is a main period of body growth. It is a main period of the body growth. Toddler 1 to 3 year is a term as a toddler. Childhood period is termed as a 6 to 11 years. Childhood period is a 6 to 11 years. It is a period of social growth. It is a period of social growth. WHO recently termed adolescent age, it is the age between 10 to 19 years. So overall, if they ask you what is the adolescent age, so adolescent age is a 10 to 19 years. These 10 to 19 years is divided into two broad categories, early and late. Early is a 10 to 14 years, late is a 15 to 19 years. Early is a 10 to 14 years, and late is 15 to 19 years. So see this MCQ which was asked. WHO defines adolescent age between 10 to 19 years. 10 to 19 years is termed as a adolescence age. WHO has given the age of the youth also. Age of the youth is a 15 to 24 years. So see this. In our latest update, youth is a 15 to 24 years. And young people is 10 to 24 years. Young people is 10 to 24 years. Okay. So this is a normal age group, how we will define it. Then we will first discuss what is a normal weight of a child. What is a normal weight of a child? Normal weight of a child when the child is born is around 2.5 to 4 kg. It is a normal weight. In India, average weight of child is a 2.8 kg. Average weight is a 2.8 kg. Child is considered as a low birth weight if it is a less than 2.5 kg. If child is less than 1.5 kg, the child is considered as a very low birth weight. And if less than 1 kilogram of weight, it is termed as a extremely low birth weight baby. So it is a very low. And it is a extremely low. It is a extremely low birth weight. If child is more than 4 kilogram of weight, the child is considered as a macrozomic. The child is considered as a macrozomic. Next we will see a Lubchenco chart. How this chart is useful. So remember, Lubchenco chart is useful to see the intrauterine growth of a child. It is useful to see intrauterine growth. If child growth percentile is between 10th and 19th percentile, then the growth of this child is appropriate according to gestational age. This is considered as a appropriate for gestational age. It is considered as a appropriate for the gestational age. If child's growth is less than 10th percentile, then it is a small for gestational age. The child is considered as a small for gestational age baby. And more than 98th percentile, the child is considered as a large for gestational age. So in intrauterine period, child's growth must be appropriate according to a gestational age between 10th to 90th percentile. Okay. So remember, in Lubchenco chart, on one axis you have a gestational age in weeks and you compare it with a weight of a child. So there are 2-3 important MCQ. Lubchenco chart is useful for the intrauterine growth. What you compare? You compare gestational age in a week to a weight of a child. And less than 10th percentile, it is a small for gestational age baby, SGA baby. And if more than 90th percentile, the child is considered as a large for gestational age baby. So these are the important weight parameters. Now we will see how we will assess the growth. In a growth assessment, let's discuss first weight. How we will assess. So remember, weight is the most sensitive parameter. Weight is the most sensitive parameter of the growth monitoring. Why weight is the most sensitive parameter? If you do 2-3 days fasting, what will happen? You will decrease some amount of weight of your body. You will not decrease your height. So in comparison to a weight and height, the most sensitive parameter which will be affecting your daily routine is a weight. With excessive eating, you will gain the weight and you will lose the weight if you are fasting. So weight is the most sensitive parameter, the how child is going to grow. So we will first discuss how there is an increase in the weight with the age. When the child will age, how his weight will increase. Normally, if birth weight suppose is a x, during the 1 to 4 month, during the first 4 month, weight gain is a 30 gram per day. Average child increase 30 gram every day. During 5 to 8 months, it is a 20 gram per day. And during 9 to 12 months, child average increase 10 gram per day. So these are the average weight gain during the first year of life. So 1 to 4 month, 5 to 8 month and 9 to 12 month. 30 gram, 20 gram and 10 gram per day. But if they ask an average that the child, suppose the MCQ they ask, the child has a 3 kg of weight at birth, what can be weight at 1 year? They can ask MCQ like this. There is a 3 kg child at birth, what can be the weight at the end of the 1 year? So to solve this kind of MCQ, see this, remember like this, suppose a child has a birth weight x, suppose 2.8 kg, 3 kg or 3.2 kg. During the first 5 months of life, the weight of a child will be twice of a birth weight. Remember like this, at a 5 month it will be a twice. During the first year of life, it will be a thrice of the birth weight. So in this case, in this MCQ, during the first year of life, the child's average weight can be around 9 kg. During the second year, it is a 4 time, then it is a 5 time. At 5 year, it is a 6 time, and it is a 7 time of a birth weight. Okay, so you remember like this: 5 month, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and then 5 and 7 year. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 times the birth weight. When the child is born, child will lose some of the weight. Why child loses the normal weight during the first few days of the life? The reason is, suppose this child is born, so birth weight was a 3 kg. During the first days of the life. Now what will happen, because when the child is born, now what will happen, child will produce a more urine through his maturation of the kidneys. Child is giving away more diuresis. This diuresis is known as a physiological diuresis. So what is a physiological diuresis? Kidney is maturating, and that is why kidney is making a more urine during this time. Kidneys are not that mature, but they are maturating. The nephrons of the kidneys are not that mature, so it will be losing more urine from the body, and because of the excessive loss of the water through the urine, what will happen? A child will lose some amount of weight. Mother is feeding the child normally, but child will lose some weight because of a diuresis, because of a excessive passing of the urine. So during the 4th day of life, the weight of a child will be a 2700 gram. So during this time, the weight was reduced. Now kidneys will sense that because of the excessive diuresis, there is a catabolic process is going on. So weight is decreasing. So after 7 days again, now nephron will be getting matured and it will not cause a excessive diuresis, and it will retain some amount of water again. Because the body has adjusted itself, now again child will, during the day 7, child again will have a 3000 gram of weight. So child lose 300 gram during the first 4 days of life because of a physiological diuresis. This physiological diuresis is around 10% of the total body weight. It is around 10% of the total body weight. So this is for the normal term child. In a normal term child, physiological weight loss. So remember this MCQ point. Physiological weight loss in a normal term child is a 10% of the total body weight. This physiological weight loss will be regained at the day 7 or day 10. Around day 7 to 10, child will again regain this weight. Child will regain this weight. Suppose this child is a preterm child. If child is a preterm, now what will happen? In preterm child, functions of the kidney is not very much mature, and because of this, child will lose 15% of weight. 15% decrease of the body weight. Child will have a 15% decrease of the body weight. And regain body weight after 2 weeks. So also, because the maturation of the kidney takes time, this child will not regain its weight on a day 7. It will take at least 2 weeks. Very important difference between a term child and a preterm child. Term child will lose normally a 10% of the body weight during the first 4 days of life and regain the weight during the 7 to 10 days of the life. Whereas in a preterm child, because the functions of the kidney is not mature, the child will lose more urine during the first 4 days of life, and it will decrease a 15% of the body weight. And because the child is a preterm, kidney will take more time for the maturation of the nephron and tubule. To regain a normal body weight, it will take 2 weeks. It will take 2 weeks. So remember this example. A 3 kg child will lose at least 300 gram during the first 4 days of life, and during the day 7 it will regain the weight. This phenomena is known as a physiological weight loss. This is known as a physiological weight loss. Whereas if they ask you what happens in IUGR baby, IUGR means intrauterine growth retardation. Intrauterine growth retardation. So we will see this topic later on, what is intrauterine growth retardation. But in intrauterine growth retardation, child has a stress, child has a stress due to maternal factors. Suppose mother gets some infection due to maternal factors, or mother has a preeclampsia like disease or a gestational diabetes like disease. So what will happen in a IUGR baby? In intrauterine growth retarded baby, there are a maturation of the tubules in utero, maturation of tubules in utero. So because of there is a maturation of tubules in utero, when they will be born, they will not lose weight. In intrauterine baby, there will be no loss of weight. Because in IUGR baby, tubules are mature, so no physiological diuresis. No physiological diuresis. In IUGR baby, child has a stress due to maternal infection or maternal disease, and because of this disease, a maturation of tubule will occur during in utero period of a child, and so when these childs are born, they will not lose weight. Okay, they will not lose weight, and weight gains will start after 3 to 4 days of a life. There is an increase in the weight. Now we will see what are the parameters of the height. Height. Maximum increase in the height occurs during the first year of life followed by puberty. So first answer is a first year of life, second is a puberty. There is a maximum increase in the height. So average height suppose is a 50 centimeter during the birth. 50 centimeter during the birth. At first year it is of 75 centimeter, second 90 centimeter, and during the fourth year of life it is 100 centimeter. So this MCQ was asked, height doubles at what age? Height doubles at what age? Doubles at a 4 year. Okay, and as you can see, height doubles at what age? Answer will be here, the 4 years. Second MCQ, maximum increase in height is at what age? So maximum increase, you can see that during the first year of life there is a 50% increase in the height. During the first year of life there is a 50% increase. So you can see the 25 centimeter increased height. So answer is a maximum increase in height is during the first year of life. So how much there is an increase? There will be a 50% increase. %50% increase in the height. See this instrument. This instrument is useful to measure recumbent height. Instrument is known as a infantometer. This instrument is known as a infantometer. It is useful to measure recumbent height. It is useful to measure recumbent height. Mainly useful in a less than 2 year of child. Less than 2 year child. Okay. So remember this instrument, image based question they can ask. This is all you know. This is known as a stadiometer. This is a stadiometer to measure a standing length. To measure standing length of a child. Only child is able to stand, then you will use this. Okay. See this instrument. This instrument is known as a harped and calipers. This instrument is known as a harped and calipers. It is used to measure skin fold thickness. It is useful to measure skin fold thickness. This is known as a harped and calipers. Harped and calipers is used to measure skin fold thickness. So see these images carefully and remember they can ask this. Okay. Now we will discuss what is the upper segment and what is the lower segment in a body. So upper segment, it is considered from vertex. So upper segment is from vertex to symphysis pubis. From vertex to symphysis pubis is this considered as a upper segment. And symphysis to heel, it is considered as a lower segment. Symphysis to the heel, it is considered as a lower segment. Symphysis to heel, it is considered as a lower segment. In a newborn, when child is born, upper segment to lower segment ratio is usually 1.7 to 1.9 raised to 1. In a newborn, upper segment to lower segment ratio is 1.7 to 1.9% to 1. During the first 3 years of life, at the 3 years of life, the ratio will be 1.32. 1.3 to 1. And during the 7 to 10 years, the ratio will be 1 to 1. During the 7 to 10 years, it will be 1 to 1. Upper segment from vertex to symphysis pubis, lower segment symphysis to the heel. In a newborn, upper segment to lower segment ratio will be 1.7 to 1.9 to 1. During the first 3 years of life, 1.3 to 1 ratio, and 7 to 10 years it will be 1 to 1. We will discuss a very important topic, short stature. If height of a baby, if height is less than a third percentile, height is less than third percentile or 2 standard deviation below the median height, 2 standard deviation below the median height for that age and sex, this is termed as a short stature. So remember this definition: less than third percentile or 2 standard deviation below the median height for that age and sex, it is considered as a short stature. What is the most common cause of a short stature in childhood? Most common short stature in childhood is a constitutional. It is a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. It is a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. What are the types of the short stature? Types of the short stature are proportionate, so what is the meaning of proportionate short stature? So the ratio is the upper segment to lower segment ratio is a normal. So both ratio is normal. It is considered as a proportionate. Another variant of short stature is a disproportionate. Disproportionate means upper segment to lower segment ratio is altered. Upper segment to lower segment ratio is altered, then it is considered as a disproportionate short stature. If upper segment to lower segment, upper segment to lower segment if ratio is decreased, this ratio is decreased in a short trunk dwarfism, which is considered as a short trunk dwarfism. Okay, it is considered as a short trunk dwarfism. So upper segment is decreased more. If upper segment to lower segment is increased, it is considered as a short limb dwarfism. It is considered as a short limb dwarfism. Upper segment to lower segment is increased, this is a short limb dwarfism. So these are the types of the different short stature. We will discuss proportionate short stature. Proportionate short stature. Proportionate short stature can be mainly of a three different type. It can be a normal, intrauterine cause and acquired cause. Normal, intrauterine cause and acquired cause. So what can be the normal proportionate short stature? It can be a familial type. The first important is a familial. So genetically, genes are like that the child has a average weight of a less than a normal population. Then second, it can be constitutional. It can be constitutional delay in growth and puberty. It is a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. Intrauterine cause, it can be intrauterine growth retardation and small for gestational age baby. It can be the torch infection or a genetic cause. Genetic cause, it can be Turner syndrome, or a Down syndrome. It can be from the Turner syndrome or Down syndrome. These are the intrauterine causes. There can be acquired causes if child has a low nutrition diet, some endocrine deficiency like growth hormone deficiency, if child develop a chronic disease like CKD, diabetes like disease, since the childhood, then child will develop as a short stature child. If he has a chronic illness during the first few years of life, the child will stay as a short stature child. So remember these three different type: a normal variant, familial and constitutional delay in growth and puberty, intrauterine cause, intrauterine growth retardation or a small for gestational age baby, torch infection and genetic cause. In acquired cause, low nutrition, growth hormone and a illness can cause short stature. We will first discuss familial or a genetic short stature. Familial or a genetic short stature. So what is a familial or genetic short stature? So short stature runs in their family. It is a very important topic. We will compare familial short stature and constitutional delay in growth and puberty. So remember, this child when they birth, they have a birth weight and length. It will be below the third percentile. It will be below the third percentile for the gestational age. So growth channel is low, but the normal curve, the curve will be a normal. Okay, it will be a sigmoid shaped curve. There is a body growth, but overall the percentile is low. Family history of the short stature will be positive in this child. But what is important? What they can ask MCQ? The puberty onset is at normal. Normal onset of puberty. In this patient, if you check the born age, it will be appropriate for the chronological age. So what is a born age? Born age is nowadays X-ray of wrist. We will check the X-ray of the wrist, and from the X-ray of the wrist you will give a appropriate age. It is considered as a born age. And what is a chronological age? Chronological age is from the birth date. Okay, so their bones will be developing according to their normal age. So born age is equal to chronological age. But adult height, when they get the adulthood, the height will be shorter than an average. So height will be according to parental short height, because the short stature runs in their family. Overall final height will be shorter. So what is a normal in this child? Two things are normal. Onset of the puberty is normal, and the born age and chronological age is also normal. So in this child, familial and genetic short stature, puberty and the chronological age and born age are maintained, but average height at the end of the adulthood is shorter. Now we will see the difference. So write down the difference between a familial short stature and a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. From this table you can solve many MCQ. Constitutional delay in growth and puberty. Now what is a constitutional delay in growth and puberty? We always have our common friend who was not of a proper height when we were in school, but after he entered into the college, he developed all the adult height. He was shorter during the school time period, but when he got into the college after the 16 or 15 years of life, then he regained his normal height. This is considered as a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. It is the most common in world and also in India. Okay, so we will discuss what is a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. So two things are common, as the name suggests. There is a delay in a growth and a delay in a puberty. So from the disease name, you remember like this: in constitutional delay in growth and puberty, there is a delay of a height gain and delay of the puberty also. So we will discuss this familial short stature in CDGP. First of all, remember parent height. In parent height, familial short stature, because in short stature runs in family, in the first it will be a short, whereas in constitutional delay in growth and puberty, the height of the parent will be of average, so 5'6" or 5'8" kind of height. Parental pubertal onset. The onset of puberty in a familial short stature is always normal, whereas the name suggests it will be a delayed in the puberty, in a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. The velocity of the growth. Velocity is according to age. The growth velocity is according to a normal parent height. It will be a normal in familial short stature, whereas growth is also delayed in this CDGP variant. Onset of puberty will be normal, whereas onset of puberty is a delayed. And bone age. As I told you, bone age, we will take a X-ray of a wrist and imagine, we will count the age of a child. It will be a normal in a variant of a familial short stature, whereas it will be delayed in case of a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. Because the puberty is delayed, the ossification of bone will be very late, and that is why it is a delayed, CDGP variant. But what will happen finally during the 18 years of life, this child will regain all its height in a CDGP variant. So final height is normal in a CDGP variant, whereas in final height in a familial short stature will be short, because the genes are not supporting the growth of a child during the adulthood period. So ultimately what will happen during the familial short stature, the final adult height will be a very much low, whereas in constitutional delay in growth and puberty, final height attained will be a normal as per the parent height. Okay, overall they can be shorter than the normal population, but it is according to their parents' height, and their parents' height will be a kind of some average in the population. So remember like this, bone age less than chronological age, it is seen in a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. So these MCQ they can ask, bone age is equal to chronological age. Bone age is equal to chronological age is seen in a familial short stature. So these are two important MCQ. Remember, bone age is equal to chronological age is seen in a familial short stature. Bone age less than chronological age, it is seen in a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. What are the other example in which you will see this important MCQ, in which condition bone age is less than chronological age? The first important example is a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. Second will be undernutrition or low nutrition. If child has a hypothyroidism, if child has a growth hormone deficiency. All these examples can have bone age less than chronological age. Very important MCQ. Remember, bone age less than chronological age is seen in a CDGP, low nutrition, hypothyroidism, and a growth hormone deficiency. Okay. Now we will discuss a short trunk dwarfism and a short limb dwarfism. So in short trunk dwarfism, upper segment to lower segment ratio will be decreased. The ratio will be decreased. So short trunk means length of spine is affected. Because the length of spine is affected, the trunk will be a shorter. The ratio is a decreased. It is a mucopolysaccharidosis. It is seen with mucopolysaccharidosis. Whereas in short limb dwarfism, the upper segment to lower segment ratio is increased. Why increased? Because the limb are shorter. Limb are short. So in this disease, the disease of the bone will cause the short limb or increased ratio dwarfism. So remember the example of mucopolysaccharidosis and see the example which are affecting bone. The first disease is a rickets, second osteogenesis imperfecta, hypothyroidism, achondroplasia or hypochondroplasia. All are the disease are affecting the bone, which will cause a short limb, which will cause short limb. See this image based question. What is a abnormality is known as a, this abnormality is known as achondroplasia. This short stature is a variant of a achondroplasia. This is a achondroplasia. The defect in this disease is a fibroblast growth factor receptor gene defect. It is a fibroblast growth factor receptor gene defect. It is considered as a achondroplasia. In achondroplasia, see these different images. The trunk size is normal. Normal trunk size, but limbs are short. But limbs are short. Another feature, this is a feature is a known as a trident hand. Frontal bossing. Short and broad feet. Short and broad feet. So these are the important features of the achondroplasia. Okay. So achondroplasia is a short limb dwarfism. Short limb dwarfism. Upper segment to lower segment ratio. Upper segment to lower segment ratio will be increased. Upper segment to lower segment ratio is increased. The ratio will be increased. Okay. Now, moving to the next. See this. Fetal growth is maximally affected by. Fetal growth is maximally affected by which hormone? So most of the student answers the growth hormone, but remember, during the fetal life, growth hormone is not important. The main hormone which is required during the fetal growth is a insulin. So insulin is required as a growth hormone in a fetus. So remember this one line, insulin and insulin like growth factor, insulin or insulin like growth factor stimulate fetal growth. We will see this. Fetal growth is mainly dependent on insulin, insulin like growth factor, and third important hormone is a thyroxine. Third important hormone is a thyroxine. So fetal growth is important for insulin, insulin like growth factor, and thyroxine. during the infancy period, how you feed the child will define its growth mainly. During the childhood period, the main hormone for the growth will be a growth hormone, and during the puberty, sex hormone is a main hormone to initiate the growth during the puberty. So nutrition, growth hormone and sex hormone are important during the three different phases of the life. But remember, during the fetal growth period, insulin like growth factor and thyroxine is important. Okay, now we will discuss a Scammann's curve of growth. Scammann's curve of growth. So these graph represent a four main growth of the body. These four main growths are the lymphoid tissue, neural tissue, general body height and a genital growth. Okay, so what is the important? We will write the important point in graph itself. First of all, remember, this is a general growth. This general growth is normally S-shaped curve. So remember, important MCQ, general growth is a S-shaped curve. It is a constant, right? General body growth is always be constant since birth. It is a S-shaped curve. In comparison, neural tissue. So from the birth, during the first 5 to 6 years, there is an exponential increase in our neural connection. That is why during the first 5 to 6 years, there is a increase in the neural tissue, but then it is a plateau. During the 5 to 20 years, it will be a plateau phase in the neural tissue. So adult brain size and the neural connection will not alter after the 20 years of life. So that is why this graph is a neural growth graph. Whereas in case of a genital, at the onset of puberty, 10 to 13 years, the size of the genital increases and reaches maximum during 18 to 20 years. In 18 to 20 years, it reaches maximum adult size. So genitals are at a maximum adult size during the 18 to 20 years of life. Okay. But main is the lymphoid development. So these lymphoid means lymph tissue are the representation of a immunity. So there is a physiological hypertrophy during the 4 to 8 years of life. So lymphoid hypertrophy during 4 to 8 years of life. There is a lymphoid hypertrophy during the 4 to 8 years of life. These physiological hypertrophy, why? During the these 4 to 8 years of life, child will encounter many infection, and this infection will retain its memory, and there will be a lymphoid hypertrophy during this period of time. So remember, Scammonn's curve represent 4 different growths. Of this important, the general body growth is a S-shaped curve. Neural tissue, the maximum increase in the brain size is during the first year of life. It will reaches the maximum size during the 4 to 5 years of life, and then it will be remain as a plateau phase up to 20 years, and then in the further in the life. So your neural connection normally do not increase after 20 years of life, whereas genital size increase at the time of a puberty 10 to 13 years, and it will reach its maximum size during 18 to 20 years of life, maximum adult size. Whereas lymphoid hypertrophy you will see during the 4 to 8 years of life. During the 4 to 8 years of life. Now we will discuss head circumference. Head circumference. What is the normal head circumference? Normal head circumference is 33 to 35 centimeters. Normal head circumference is 33 to 35 centimeters. Total brain volume double set, total brain volume double set, first year of life. Total brain volume double set, first year of life. Very important. What is macrocephaly? If head circumference is greater than 95th percentile. If head circumference is more than 95th percentile for that age and sex, it is considered as a macrocephaly. If less than 3 standard deviation for that mean age and sex, then it is considered as a microcephaly. Okay, so remember, what is the normal value? Head circumference is a 33 to 35 centimeter. Total brain volume double set of first year of life. Macrocephaly more than 95th percentile, and microcephaly is less than 3 standard deviation for that mean age and sex. So normally when the child is born, head circumference is always greater than chest circumference. Okay, so that is why when child is being born, if head is passed, then it is easy to take out the child during the labor, right? So head circumference is always greater than chest circumference, but the difference is less than 3 centimeter, but the difference should be less than 3 centimeter. Head circumference will be equal to chest circumference during the 9 months to 1 year. During the 9 months to 1 year, head circumference will be equal to chest circumference. But if chest circumference is less than head circumference, during this period, if chest circumference is less, then child is a malnourished. Then child is considered to be a malnourished. Because if child is fed normally, his chest circumference will be increasing constantly. But if head circumference is larger than chest circumference during the 9 month to 1 year of period, then child is considered as a malnourished. Okay. We already discussed this. Now we will discuss the fontanelles. All baby born has normally 6 fontanelles: anterior, posterior, 2 sphenoid fontanelle and 2 mastoid fontanelle on each side. So these are 2, these will be 2, and anterior and posterior fontanelle. So totally baby when born has a 6 fontanelles. When the baby is born, they have a 6 fontanelles. So see this image, so you can have an idea. See this. This is known as a anterior fontanelle. This fontanelle is known as a anterior fontanelle. This is a posterior fontanelle, sphenoid fontanelle. So on each side you will have a sphenoid fontanelle, and this is a mastoid fontanelle. So why nature has given us a fontanelle? The reason is, during the first year of life, the baby's brain size will be doubled, and because baby's brain size will be doubled, if brain has a immature suture, then there will be no proper space available for the growing brain. So that is why there are during the first year of life, this fontanelle help expanding the brain tissue. So how there is a closure of this fontanelle? First of all, remember, the first fontanelle to close is a posterior fontanelle. So closure of posterior fontanelle, is during 2 to 3 months of life. During the 2 to 3 months, most of the child will have a closure of the posterior fontanelle during the birth process. As you can see, the posterior fontanelle is very small. So during the squeezing action from the vaginal wall, most of the 90% of the child will close the posterior fontanelle during the birth process. So 90% will have closure during the labor. But if it is not closed, it will be closed around 2 to 3 months. Whereas the closure of anterior fontanelle is around 18 to 24 months. Because it is the largest of all the fontanelle, it is last to close. So this is very important. The closure of the anterior fontanelle is 18 to 24 months. Anterior fontanelle 18 to 24 months. So remember the order. of fontanelle closure. So remember P, S, M and A. So the first will be the posterior, then sphenoid fontanelle, then mastoid fontanelle and then anterior fontanelle. The order is a posterior fontanelle, then sphenoid, then mastoid and then anterior fontanelle. Okay, now we will discuss what is the early closure of all the fontanelle. Early closure of all the fontanelle is known as a craniosynostosis. Early closure of all the fontanelle is known as a craniosynostosis. What can be the complication of the craniosynostosis? Complication can be microcephaly. The brain will not develop properly, microcephaly. Intracranial tension is increased. Intracranial tension is increased. There will be a optic atrophy. Optic atrophy. And cosmetic issue, because brain size will be reduced, the skull size will also be get smaller. Treatment is a craniectomy. Treatment is a craniectomy. There are few syndromes associated with this. Is a Apert, and a Crouzon syndrome. These are the few syndromes which are associated with a craniosynostosis. Now, what are the delayed closure? What are the causes which cause a delayed closure of the fontanelle? Delayed closure of the fontanelle is seen with the rickets. It is seen with the rickets. Down syndrome, hypothyroidism, and hypophosphatemia. So these are the four important causes which can cause a delayed closure of the fontanelle. Delayed closure of the fontanelle is seen with the rickets, Down syndrome, hypothyroidism and hypophosphatemia. So we will discuss the dentition. What are these two teeth? These are the primary teeth in a child. So child normally develop two central incisors. Lower gum, lower mandible is the first primary dentition, right? So we will discuss this primary dentition. Primary dentition starts around 6 to 7 months. Starts around 6 to 7 months. It completes at 3 years. It completes at 3 years. Lower central incisors are the first primary tooth. Lower central incisors are the first primary tooth. Okay, very important. What are the first primary tooth? Lower central incisor are the first primary tooth. So what is a delayed primary dentition? Delayed primary dentition is considered when there are no teeth at the age of 13 months. If by the 13 months child do not grow primary teeth, it can be termed as a delayed dentition. Secondary dentition starts around 6 years of life. It starts around 6 years of life. It starts around 6 years of life. First secondary tooth to grow is the first molars. Is the first molar is the first secondary teeth. Very important MCQ. Advanced dentition. What are the cause? It is seen in a precocious puberty and hyperthyroid child. Advanced dentition seen in precocious puberty and hyperthyroidism. Advanced dentition seen with the precocious puberty and hyperthyroidism. So these are the primary teeth. Okay. Central incisors, then lateral incisor, canine, first molar and second molar. Okay, so you don't have to remember everything, just remember these are the important markers in dentition. We will discuss what are the causes of the delayed teeth. The causes of the delayed teeth is mainly can be familial. So they have a family history of a late dentition. It can be seen with the rickets. It can be seen with the hypothyroidism. It can be seen in the Down syndrome. And a cleidocranial dysplasia. It is seen with a cleidocranial dysplasia. All these conditions can have a delayed dentition. So try to answer this question. Eruption of the first permanent molar tooth occur at what age? So answer will be 6 to 7 years. And the first permanent teeth to appear is the first molar. We already discussed this. So what are these teeth? This teeth is known as the Hutchinson's teeth. Hutchinson's teeth. This is a late congenital syphilis. It is seen with a late congenital syphilis. It is seen along with a late congenital syphilis. See this instrument. What is this instrument is useful for? This is known as a Shakir's tape. This is termed as a Shakir's tape. It is useful to measure mid-arm. It is useful to measure mid-arm circumference. It is useful to measure mid-arm circumference. So we will discuss mid-arm circumference. It is measured in the middle of the arm. The instrument is known as a Shakir's tape. Shakir's tape is used. It has a 3 different zone. Green zone, if it is more than 12.5 centimeter, if it is more than 12.5 centimeter, it termed as a normal nutrition. If it is in a yellow zone, 11.5 to 12.5 centimeter, then it is a borderline zone. And red zone, less than 11.5, it is a severe malnutrition. It is a severe malnutrition. Okay. There are few age independent indexes for the diagnosis of malnutrition. You just remember the name of this. These are not very much important, but these are the Kanavati index. Kanavati index. Second is a Maclaurin index. Maclaurin index. Jellyfish ratio. So these are the age independent index for the diagnosis of malnourishment, but you remember mid-arm circumference mainly. Okay. Now see this MCQ. What is not seen in a newborn? What is not seen in a newborn? So proteinuria and glucosuria is seen because the maturity of the tubules in the kidney are not up to the mark. That is the reason the child, when they are born, they have a physiological diuresis, and along with the physiological diuresis, child will have a mild proteinuria and glucosuria, and 1 to 2 pus cells will be also be a normal finding. But bacteriuria is not commonly seen. So answer will be a bacteriuria. Bacteriuria is not commonly seen in a newborn. Okay. You see this MCQ. This X-ray is suggestive of what? X-ray is suggestive of X-ray you can see there is no clavicle present here. This disease is known as a cleidocranial. So it is a bony defect. Most commonly this child do not have a clavicle. So see this image. This is an image of a cleidocranial dysostosis. Okay. So this is just to make you aware. When you see these X-rays, just see the normal things first and then go for the pathology. So we will further ahead. What are the causes of the delayed dentition? We already discussed. Causes of the delayed dentition are the familial causes, rickets, hypothyroid, Down syndrome, hypophosphatasia, and cleidocranial dysostosis. Okay. Now, very important, neonatal screening. Why child who is born, we have to do a screening? The reason is there are few important diseases which can be diagnosed when the child is born. So most commonly in India, we screen for the following diseases. The first important is a hypothyroidism. Why hypothyroidism? Because hypothyroidism is the most common cause of preventable mental retardation. It is the most common cause of a preventable mental retardation, hypothyroidism. Because if the mother is a hypothyroid or child is hypothyroid, there are chances that the child will have a mental retardation during the first few years of life, because the hypothyroid hormone thyroxine is very important for the development of the brain. And if mother or child is not have a normal thyroid function, then there will be a mental retarded child. So if you diagnose this child on a time, then they can be treated on time. Okay. Few metabolic disorders like phenylketonuria, alkaptonuria, there is a single test which is known as a tandem mass spectrometry. Tandem mass spectrometry for the metabolic disorder. If mother or father has a history of a cystic fibrosis child or a family history, then child should be screened for the cystic fibrosis. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Child should be screened for the congenital adrenal hyperplasia and G6PD deficiency. And if child has a G6PD deficiency, they should be screened for. If there is a family history of G6PD, then they should be screened for G6PD deficiency. Okay. Now we will see what is the normal puberty. What is the sequence in the female normal puberty? In a female, the sequence of puberty is a thelarche first, then pubarche, then the growth spurt, and then menarche. Okay, so commonly they ask what is the first sequence in a female puberty. The first sequence is a breast bud development, which is known as a thelarche. So first is a breast bud development. Thelarche, the normal age is a 8 to 12 years of age. The normal is a 8 to 12 years of age. Girl start a thelarche, breast bud development. Whereas in a male sequence, the first event is a testicular enlargement. The first event is a testicular enlargement. So you will see this MCQ. So what is a male sequence? So male sequence is a testicular enlargement. After the testicular, second event will be a penile growth. Then pubic hair. Then boys will have a growth spurt. Growth spurt. After the growth spurt, child will grow axillary hair, and at last facial hair. So male sequence is a first sequence, which is a testicular enlargement in boys. If they ask you what is the first visible sign of puberty in female, it is a thelarche. First visible sign in boys is a testicular enlargement. It is a testicular enlargement. Testicular enlargement, the age is around 9 to 10 years. The age is around 9 to 10 years. So this is the important MCQ. 8 to 12 years, thelarche and testicular enlargement during 9 to 10 years. Remember the sequence also. In female sequence has been previously asked. So remember the female sequence: thelarche, pubarche, growth spurt and menarche. So see this, earliest indication of sexual maturation. Earliest indication, answer will be a thelarche. Answer will be thelarche. So these are the different tenor stages of a female sexual development. So you don't have to go into the detail of this. Okay, see this instrument. This instrument is known as a orchidometer. This instrument is known as a orchidometer. Peak growth of testis is at the SMR stage 4. Is at the level of stage 4. So we will discuss this. What are the stages? So write down a topic: growth spurt. Growth spurt in girls occur at tenor stage 3, in boys tenor stage 4. Growth spurt occurs later and longer in boys. Growth spurt occurs later and longer in boys. During the growth spurt period, height gain is 20 to 30 centimeter in boys. In boys, 20 to 30 centimeter increase in the height, whereas in girls 16 to 28 centimeter increase. 16 to 28 centimeter increase. Okay, all are these important MCQ. Now we will see the gynecomastia. So this gynecomastia is mainly in a pubertal adulthood male. Okay, it is not as a disease I am discussing as a normal growth and development. This gynecomastia is seen in 65% of the adolescent male. It is seen in 65% of the adolescent male. These gynecomastia regress within 1 to 3 years of life. So any mother with their child come during the 11 to 13 years of age, and if they are complaining of a gynecomastia or the swelling of the breast tissue in a boys, you will reassure the mother that it is because of the hormonal imbalance. Your child, this will regress in 1 to 3 years of life. So what is the cause of a gynecomastia in a adolescent male? The reason is a transient imbalance between estrogen and androgen. The main cause is the transient imbalance of estrogen and androgen. Transient imbalance between estrogen and androgen will cause gynecomastia. Okay, so we have finished the normal growth here. So which of the fontanelle is last to close? The fontanelle, the last to close is the anterior fontanelle. Anterior fontanelle. Remember, the fontanelle last to close is the anterior fontanelle. Now we will see development. So development has mainly 4 domains: gross motor, fine motor, language and social development. Mainly the 4 domains of the development are gross motor, fine motor, language and social development. The development quotient is mainly a development age divided by actual age into 100. Development age divided by actual age into 100. So see this MCQ. What is the probable age of this child? What is the probable age of this child? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months or 8 months. Okay. The probable age of this child is mainly 3 months. Why? This child is able to hold his neck above the spine. Okay, he can also have a support of the arm also. So mainly the age of this child can be around 3 months. See this another MCQ. Creeping child, mainly the age is around 10 months. So we will discuss how this development occurs. Okay, So how there is a gross development. So you just have to remember how this gross development, motor development occurs. You don't have to write. I will give you the list of the all the age related milestones. Okay. First of all, understand, when the child is born, normally he is not able to lift his head. Okay. As you can see here, during this period 0 to 1 month, in this image you can see this child is not able to lift his head. He is not able to lift his head because there is no proper muscle strength available to lift his own head. During the gross motor development, the muscle strength will be from head to toe. So strength will be gained like this. So first of all, what child will do? Child will have a strength of a neck muscle first. So during the first 2 months of life, the child will have a strength of a neck muscle. So during this period, now child will get some enough strength during the 1 to 2 months. Now he is able to lift his head above the spine level, right? You can see in this image. Now once the child has enough strength available into the neck muscle, now what he will do? He will gain the strength of a upper arm. Now he will try to lift his body using the upper arm. Like you can see, during the first 2 to 3 months of life, now he is using this upper arm to lift his trunk. Once he get enough strength of the upper arm, now he will try to push his body using whole hand. As you can see, during 3 to 4.5 months, he is trying to lift his body using the upper arm. Once child has get enough strength into the upper arm, now child will be able to rotate himself. So after 5 month or a 6 month period, child will be able to rotate himself in a bed. So once child has enough strength available into the upper trunk, now child will be able to sit in a tripod position. So he can sit with the support. So these are the two important MCQ. Child can sit with the support at the 6 month, and child can rotate himself in the bed is same around the 6 month. Okay. So rollover can be done at a 5 month or a 6 month, and sitting with the support, the milestone is at a 6 month. So up to the 6 month, child has a strength of a upper body. He do not develop a normal strength of a lower body during the first 6 months of life. So remember this sequence. From muscle strength is gained from head to toe. The first, he will develop a strength of a neck holding, then upper arm, then whole arm, and then upper trunk. Once upper trunk strength is developed, he will be able to sit with the support. Okay. Now once he can sit with the support, now what he will develop? He will develop a strength of this spine and abdominal muscle. Once he is enough strength available of a spine and abdominal muscle, now he can sit without support. Without support. So during the 8 month, by the 8 month period or 7 to 8 month period, child is able to sit without support. Okay. From this point, after 6 to 7 or 7.5 months, once child has a enough strength available in the abdominal muscle and upper trunk, now what child will do? Child will try to gain strength of the lower limb. Okay, so by the 9 months of age, he will be able to stand with the support. As you can see in this image, he is trying to use the pelvic girdle muscle to stand up with the support. Okay, now he will try to bear his weight on his legs. He will try to stand up using the lower limbs. Once he is able to lift his some of the weight on a lower limb, child will be creeping, right? So child will be creeping around 10 months of age. By the creeping, child will get enough muscle strength of the upper arm also. He will get enough strength on the lower limb also. So now child will be able to move. Once child is able to move, he will try to walk with the support. He will try to walk with the support. So by the 12 months in India, commonly our child by the 12 months of age walks, but they have a frequent fall. So they can walk with the support. By the 12 months of age, they can walk with the support. They cannot freely walk. Mainly they can walk with the support in Indian child. Okay, so write down this important milestone. You can pause the video and write down this all the important milestone. I will discuss one by one. By the 3 months, we already discussed a child will have a neck holding. At 5 months, he will roll over. 6 months, he sits up in a tripod position. By the 8th month, he is sitting without the support. By 9 months, he stands holding on with the support. By the 12th month, he creeps well, walks but falls. He stands without support. By the 15th month, Indian child able to walk alone. By 15th month, child is able to walk alone. So these are the extra gross motor milestone. By the 18th month, child runs, explores, draws. By 2 years, he walk up and down stair. Okay, he walk up and down stair. By 3 years, he rides the tricycle, and by 4 years, hops on 1 foot. So this MCQ has been asked, hops on 1 foot. Okay, see this. So these are the important milestone using stairs. Okay, so first of all, child can crawl and creep upstairs. So he will easily go upstairs at 15 months of age. Walking up and down with support starts at 18 months. Without support upstairs, 2 feet at each step at 24 months. So going upstairs is easy. Child will use 2 feet at each step. Then walking upstairs without support and using alternate feet by the 30 months of age. For going downstairs without support, 2 feet each at together during the 36th month, and without support going downstairs using alternate feet at 44 to 48 month. So that is why by 4 years of age, child hops on 1 foot. Child can easily use alternate feet. during the 4 year of life. Okay, so he can use alternate feet freely by the 4 year of life. So these are the gross motor milestone. Okay, these are the gross motor milestone. So remember this chronological progression of the gross motor milestone. Remember, the muscle strength is gained from head to toe. Okay, so you can easily remember and answer the MCQs on this. Now we will discuss a fine motor milestone. Fine motor milestone. So what are the fine motor milestone? These are the tiny muscular movement like a grasp movement, right? So these milestone, so see this MCQ. So child is trying to grasp objects from the plate. Okay, this is known as a pincer grasp. So at which month child will be able to grasp the object as seen in this image? The answer will be 10 month. Answer will be 10 month. See how. So these are the fine motor skills. First of all, understand fine motor skills. So we will discuss two, a small object and large object. So as you can see this child, if in a case of a large object, with the help of the palm, child will be able to grab a large object around 7 months of life. He or she can easily grab large object with the use of the palm. As you can see in this image, child is using a palm surface to lift the large object. With the using of the fingers only without using palm is gained around 9 months. Okay, so larger object can be easily taken up by the using the palm around 7 months and using the fingers only around 9 months of age.